right. Looks like I have a few viewers already. Hopefully the stream is coming through well. Let me know if the audio is working well. I think I've got everything set up. I'm a minute or so early, which is actually unusual, but yeah, welcome guys. I am going to do the kind of the first playing of the Greatbassoon. I actually did the first playing last night. I had an idea to try a couple things, and they turned out to actually work. So I'm going to kind of go public with that. And again, let me know if everything is coming through on your end, so that I know that I don't have to repeat anything. But yeah, so let's go ahead and start in with kind of what I've done. Since my last update, I have not done really any work on the Greatbassoon. I've actually been super busy at work, and so I haven't had a chance to really devote a lot of time to it. And my other big project, of course, is getting Symphony 2 recorded. All right, good. Okay, so I've got the Greatbassoon here, and what I did is I've got a second wing joint that I printed. This one happens to be the wood filament, and it's not designed to take a bassoon vocal. So what I did is I just went to my drill. I drilled it out just enough so I could get a bassoon vocal in it, and just started to experiment from there. Now, a bassoon vocal is about 10 millimeters too long for the calculated length of this instrument. So the result is I expect everything to be a hair flat. The first test I did was more than a hair flat. It was 40, it's about 40 to 50 cents flat on the open F, which will sound C. So I'm going to do that now. What I'm using here is a modified Baroque bassoon reed. And you'll see about how flat it actually is. It's somewhere between a B and a C. I can almost lip it up. So that's really flat, but that's nearly there once I lip it up. But I'm going to try now with a regular bassoon reed. And that's still a hair flat, but it's the expected amount of flat. This is about 20 cents flat. And so that's workable, especially considering this vocal here is 10 millimeters too long. So it means that with the current calculations, I'm going to need a smaller reed and a little bit shorter vocal. Those are completely doable things. Now, what I've done, and you can see on here a bunch of white spots, this is modeling clay. So I have plugged up every tone hole on the Greatbassoon with modeling clay. And so I wanted to see, well, what would the low A sound like? Low A sounding E. So here it is, the lowest note of the Greatbassoon for the first time anyone's ever hearing it. And I've got a leak somewhere. Haha. And that's one of the problems with the modeling clay is, of course, you are going to be dealing, the tone holes won't seal perfectly. So there's a major leak somewhere. Let me try one other thing. And it's the first time it's not come out, so I gotta be real precarious because these are actually not corked at all. There it is. So the leak is in the U bend. It's just, I just glued it on. All right, so Ratchet, yes, this vocal here is my normal everyday bassoon vocal. This will not be the vocal that's used, of course. It is the wrong taper. It is too long. It is the wrong shape. Eventually, I'm just going to have it come out down and out. No fancy bend in here. Bend like this is, of course, going to collect water. Yes, the low A, the low E is perfectly in tune. And that is a wonderful sign. It means that the calculations for the overall length are about right. Now, it's in tune. I'm using a small reed in a long vocal. So if I'm using a bigger reed with a shorter vocal, it should still compensate for that. So I'm going to switch actually over to the modified Baroque bassoon reed. That's a bit bigger. And it's a lot easier for that note to come out. So down there, running into the limitations of the size of the bassoon reed. What I am noticing, though, it does have a very rough sound right now. And I'm going to have to kind of investigate the culprits of that. Why is it a little rougher than I expect? So with the bassoon reed, it's a little yes. Why would the vocal need to be shorter? Yes, it's because of this loop here. This loop is essentially taking the place of part of the vocal. There's going to be an extra vent on the instrument right here that will be where it would be on the vocal. So, but yeah, so because of the crook in here, the vocal can be a little shorter. Kind of like a contrabassoon vocal is not that much longer than a regular bassoon vocal. So yeah, I want everything to be slightly flat. I want everything to be about 20 cents flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking out some of the plugs, and we'll just go up chromatically. So this is going to be the low written B flat sounding F. That's a really, really resonant note there. Go up chromatically one more time. And this will be the written B sounding F sharp. So, F sharp sounding, written B. Let's go now. The next note is going to be C. So, written C sounding G. So, next note is C sharp. Sounding low A flat. Next note is going to be low D sounding A. And B flat is the next note. This should be the written E flat sounding B flat. This should be the lowest note of the bassoon. So that's all the notes lower than the bassoon. And you can see it does have, yeah, it's a little reedier than the contra. It's more powerful than the bassoon, but that's definitely for sure. So I can close a few of these with my fingers. That's about it, though. So the next note will be E, and this plug got damaged a little, so this should be so this should be written E, sounding low B. And that sounds a lot different than the bassoon's B. Now F. So you're hearing popping. What that is there's water in the vocal, and that's because the vocal's upside down. So if I do this, and I get water all over my wooden floor. It's lovely. So yeah. So that would be low F, written sounding C. Let's see. The next note should be written F sharp, sounding C sharp. So definitely a lot brighter sounding than the bassoon's low D flat. But yes, so would I need a water key? Yes, the vocal that I want designed will have an Amato water key right here. Let's see, what is the next tone hold? This is where I get a little confused down here, which so this should be a written G, sounding D. This should be a very different sounding note than on the bassoon. That's doesn't sound right. Why does that sound wrong? I went up. Let me try something. Oh, I figured it out. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. There's the right hole. So the boot layout is confusing because it's the keys, the holes are not in the same place as on the bassoon. open F sounding C. So that's the range. It's not terrible sounding. It's definitely got some rough edges. I'm going to need to do some interior bore work, which means I'm going to really have to sand some stuff. But I don't think that's going to present too many issues. And I'm just going to go ahead and put the plugs back in. So let's see. I've got this set up right now for a B flat. So yeah, it should sound low F. Yeah. Yeah, bore work could prove to be very, very interesting, very difficult. But I think a lot of it is going to have to be just sanding because the interior of the bore is still very, very rough. So it will need some work there. So this should be sounding A, or written A sounding, what was that, E? That would be the opening note of the Tchaikovsky Pathetique. And I can shade that a lot more than I can a low E on a bassoon. So yeah, there's that. Let's see what's the next. So I go back down. But overall, I'm actually pretty pleased. Yes. So in the wood-like material at the start, yes, that absolutely needs to be sanded down in the interior, as well as at least the lower wing joint. So the wing joint's actually in two pieces. Yeah. That's one area that will definitely need to be sanded. But we're going to plug everything back up. I'm going to go back down and play the low A because that's just kind of a fun note because it's so damn low. So yeah, there's the lowest note, and there's going to need to be a lot of redesign in here. That's expected. That'll be one of the last things. Vocal design as well. Once I get a vocal with the correct taper, that will really, I think, change the tone of the instrument. Right now, I think it's pretty rough sounding. And I may want to look at doing some alterations in the upper part, have some areas of the board be a little bit more cylindrical than conical to maybe close off the taper a little bit. Narrow it down just a little bit, kind of warm up the sound. Yeah. So I'll take kind of any questions you guys have. Of course, it is an absolute work in progress. Vocal. Do I plan to 3D print the rest of the instrument? So when I am going to print everything again. So there will be a second printing of the whole instrument. There will be some changes made here and there based on this model, but by and large, most of that will be to reprint everything in ABS plastic. ABS plastic should be quite a bit lighter, maybe 20-25% lighter than this, which will be a very, very good thing. There is some weight issues, though the whole instrument is only without keys. So there's no Keywork on here. It's only about 5 pounds. So it's much lighter than you would think it is. The Keywork will be what adds most of the weight. There's some design elements that need to be changed in the boot. We've actually already changed. We just need to incorporate it in a print. But with ABS plastic, I have to do some upgrades to my printer. So next paycheck, I'm going to be investing in an enclosure so that I can print ABS. ABS requires a much higher printing temperature. But the advantage of ABS is not only is it lighter, it's going to be stronger, and I can chemically bond it using acetone. It means I can also smooth out at least the exterior with a quick wash over in acetone. I'll kind of experiment on that some. Let's see. But overall, I'm not displeased. I am actually pretty darn happy with how this has come out so far. Yeah, I quite like where it is right now. There may need to be some tweaks, of course. That's how every prototype instrument is. The first one is never perfect. But yeah, so go ahead and ask any questions. It's not ready for people to start writing for it yet, obviously. I would wait until I at least have some Keywork on it and a proper vocal made. And I'm gonna try calling my vocal maker tonight when he gets off work, and I have. Yeah, it can, yeah, and that's what I will at least do for. So let me take. When I print off a new upper wing joint, I will also print a sanding reamer to go into at least the straight bend. This part here is going to be extremely difficult, and I've got to figure out a good way to do the sanding in here, and I am definitely open to suggestions on how to sand and smooth out the internal bend here. Can I play low note on the standard bassoon range? Yeah. So what I'll do is I will set the I'll take out just enough plugs to play a low written E flat sounding B flat. I've got I got a leak somewhere. Let me find my leak. Okay, so that's sounding B flat on the Greatbassoon. And on the regular bassoon, so the bassoon obviously is much more refined in its sound, but I'm playing on a high-end instrument versus an instrument that's 3D plastic. Uh, what is the cost time to produce what I have now? So time, I think we started talking about this designing probably back in January or February. The actual printing time, yeah, about a week and a half. The boot joint itself. So let me take the parts apart. So the quickest joints to print are the upper and lower wing. Um, so the lower wing here is two pieces glued together. Each one takes about 8 hours, about 6 hours for the three pieces of the upper wing. Um, so I mean the upper wing probably 18 hours for this. This is probably 16. The boot joint though, each piece is about it's two pieces. Each piece is about 26, 27 hours. So that means that this whole thing takes about 52 hours to print. So that's about 2.5 days. The base joint is, I would say each piece is about 8 hours. No, it's about 12 hours each. So this is about 36 hours, and this is going to be about 24 hours print. And when I print, I actually do print in a little bit higher resolution. So that it's a smaller space between each layer. But you can see here in my lap, I've got the whole thing collapsed down, and it's not that big. I mean, this is the longest piece, the boot joint, followed by the base joint. I mean, that's totally manageable when I break it down. And then these two will actually, when in case, they will stay assembled, and it should be about the same length as the base joint. A little shorter, but not by much. So all told, it would take about a week and a half of print time on one printer. Now, if I bought a second printer, obviously I could have the time. As far as cost, the whole thing takes about 2 full spools of thread, of filament. So each one of those is, with the PLA that I've been using, it's about $22 a spool. So there's about $45 worth of plastic, and then there's, but that's going to be one of your lower costs. I've got cork, screws in here, glue. When I switch to the ABS, I think the ABS will be higher in cost, so that will drive it up a little bit. But of course, when you're dealing with the time of a week and a half, about 10 days of print time, obviously that alone will drive up the cost. If someone were, how do I plan on making the Keywork? Richard's going to help with that. I have been slowly working on designing the Keywork in CAD. So I have been learning a lot of the CAD stuff. And so I've been doing that, and Richard's going to take my CAD files and put them onto his CNC machine, and he will cut them out of nickel silver, and they are going to be actual functioning keys. I also have found a supplier in Germany who can supply all the pad cups and posts, which something that Richard can't do on his CNC. Those have to be turned on a lathe and are much more labor costly. And so, yeah, so I will source the pads and the posts from a supplier in Germany. Richard will cut out all the keywork, and I've already ordered some of the materials for the keywork. I've got a package of nickel silver rod. That's actually over by my printer right now. That's going to make all the rods in there, and I'll just kind of need to go through that. If you actually look really closely on here, I've actually drawn all the keywork on here. You probably can't see it. I've drawn it in a Prismacolor gray. Will the keyword just be a giant version of normal bassoon, or will you modernize the mechanical logic? Yes, there will be some modernization in there. The fingering system will be nearly identical, but there will be, of course, some changes. There is not going to be a whispered key. I don't think having a whisper key on this instrument is needed. I'm going to follow. For right now, it's just going to have 3 vents. They're going to operate differently, though, than the 3 vents on a bassoon. So, bassoon, you've got one vent that controls A and B flat, another one that controls B flat, B, and C, and another one that controls D. Well, on this one, I'm going to have one that will control A, B flat, B, one that will control C, C sharp, D, and a third that will control E flat, E, and F. And the keywork layout for that will be a little bit different. It's actually going to be in 2 layers. So the C sharp key will be in front of the vent key, so you can hit the C sharp key and any of the vent keys at the same time. That should actually provide more fingering combinations, more key opportunities, and theoretically a higher range. So there's that. I am projecting that this thing will be able to play as high as a regular bassoon. As of right now, when I've overblown, it overblows very, very easily. So, I mean, I can play high notes on the bassoon on the Greatbassoon so far. So that's actually is really an interesting feature. As far as anything else, I have been doing lots of research. It's a Keywork for years and years, and I have a lot of that incorporated on my bassoon. So there will be automatic mechanisms, particularly in the low range. Does this mean I'm looking for a potential high range of written F5? No, I'm looking for a potential high range of written C6. I think it can do it. So, which would be, right at the same top range of a bassoon. So C6, B flat 5, I think this instrument will be able to do it. Especially if I do like a harmonic vent, then that would make things very, very easy. And I could do a harmonic vent pretty simply, I think. So, yeah. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I know a way to do that. So, yeah. I very possibly may do a harmonic vent on the vocal. So, who knows? Let's see. What other questions do we have? So, yeah, I would love to have a full 4-octave range on here, 4-octave plus range. But that said, I have a nearly 4-octave range on the regular bassoon. So, if I put my low A extension, I can go from A1 to A flat 5 on bassoon. So yeah, how long have I been going? 35 minutes? Yeah, that's good. So yeah, you've heard a little bit of the Greatbassoon. There is, of course, going to need to be lots of tweaking and adjustment at this point, but I'm actually pretty happy with it. Next step is I will talk to my vocal maker and see what we can get something done. Oh, maybe in a month or so. Who knows? So yeah. If there are no more questions, I'll go ahead and end the stream. I actually still have 13 viewers. That's surprising. Yeah. Are you going to make a bell down controversion? Right now, it might be difficult for some people to manage. Am I going to make a bell down version? At the moment, no, because I kind of like the giant aspect of it. When I do print it in the ABS plastic, it will be lighter. So at the moment, the bell is surprisingly heavy. When this goes to ABS plastic, this will be much lighter in weight. I don't think weight will be an issue. In theory, I could offer a bell down, but I don't actually like the bell down style of the Contra. I actually want to design at some point a contrabassoon that's bell up, low A, not contraforte style, but actually just regular contrabassoon style, with the contrabassoon's bore and tone hole size, just kind of rewrap so that the bell's up. How does it feel to play from a regular bassoon? I can't really tell. It plays differently than a regular bassoon, just mostly because of where it sits. This instrument has to sit between the legs. It cannot sit over to the right side like you would on a regular bassoon. That's due to the weight and just the center of balance. Have I come up with a projected weight for a maple version? No. My guess is the maple version will be probably 50% heavier, if not quite a bit heavier, because one thing with 3D printing is this is hollow, or at least partly hollow. So this has printed with 2mm thick walls, and then the interior of this is just a lattice work. So, yeah, that helps keep down the weight on it. But like I said, ABS, again, has a lower specific gravity, so it will be lighter still, and that will be the final version. That's what Richard's using for the sub-contra bassoon, and he's actually kind of calculated the weight on that. But yeah, so I figure if this is about 5 pounds, if I go to ABS, I'd be looking at about 4 pounds. But the Keywork, of course, is always going to be the heaviest aspect of it. Okay. So, yes, maple is, what's percentage of infill? 20%. So, 2mm thick walls, 20% infill. Just enough to keep it steady. And I do want to keep the 2mm walls, though I could easily get rid of the 2mm walls on the very top joint here, as there's no keywork, because I won't ever have to drill into this upper part. So the bell is in 1, 2, 3 parts, and these are just the limitations of what my printer will do. Actually, it's the limitations of what Jared's printer will do, but yeah, since we're using such similar printers, we just settled on whatever this is, a 250mm per. But yeah. So yeah, that's the percentage infill, and that really only comes into play here on the boot joint, where you've got much thicker walls in some places, particularly down the center line. The boot joint is actually a lot lighter than the bell joint, which is not the case on the regular bassoon. That said, with this being a low A model, that's a little more expected. Maybe I'll do a low B flat model at some point, to kind of reduce the height for people who don't want it so tall. Um, could I do a bent over bell? Yeah, it actually would be more difficult key work though. So maybe. All right. If there are any other questions, guys. I am thinking about actually shooting another video this evening, so that would be an actual filmed one, not a live stream. So I maybe look forward to that if I have the energy to do it. But yeah, nobody else has any questions. We'll call it a day. We're going about 40 minutes. You've heard some notes on the Greatbassoon. It's getting there. Lots more to do on it, of course, but it's fun. Okay, sounds like we've covered everything. Let me know if you have any questions offline. And until next time, that's the Greatbassoon.